Iran strikes hit America's naval supply chain, forcing the Pentagon to pivot as pressure mounts on U.S. forces. Bahrain gets hit. Diego Garcia steps in. Has Iran forced the U.S. Navy to reroute its critical supply network? U.S. prized carrier strike group's lifeline stretched across 2,200 miles, exposing a major logistical challenge? USS Abraham Lincoln comes under strain as America's stretched logistics network faces a major new test. Iran's deadly retaliatory strikes against American Gulf assets dealt a major blow to U.S. troops and regional operations. Iranian strikes reportedly damaged the U.S. Navy's main logistics hub in Bahrain, disrupting a critical regional supply link. Command centers, warehouses, and communications terminals supporting carrier strike groups were reportedly impacted by the attacks. The damage allegedly forced Washington to shift its regional supply hub toward Diego Garcia, creating a major logistical pivot. The move to Diego Garcia has now turned a short Gulf supply network into a roughly 2,200-mile maritime route. Diego Garcia now offers the U.S. Navy a remote logistics base in the Indian Ocean for resupply and sustained operations. Why Diego Garcia is critical to the U.S. Navy. Diego Garcia serves as a strategically located U.S. military base in the central Indian Ocean, linking major theaters. Its deep-water lagoon allows large carriers, submarines, and destroyers to dock, resupply, and support sustained operations. The facility has approximately 1.34 million barrels of fuel storage, supporting extended military activity far from mainland bases. Around 20 ships reportedly carry weapons, vehicles, and medical stocks, keeping critical supplies positioned close to operations. The base supports long-range bomber operations, including missions involving the B-52 and B-2 aircraft. Diego Garcia supports C-17 transport aircraft and KC-135 tankers, enabling long-range logistics and aerial refueling. Its location allows the U.S. to support long-range military operations across the Middle East and surrounding regions. Repair, munitions, and logistics infrastructure help keep aircraft, ships, and other military assets operational during extended deployments. Approximately 2,500 personnel, mostly Americans, are based at or support operations from the facility. Diego Garcia provides the U.S. military with strategic reach across the Middle East, Indo-Pacific, and Africa, making it a vital forward hub. But the greater distance could slow deliveries of fuel, weapons, food, and spare parts to American forces operating at sea. Iran had earlier targeted Diego Garcia, raising fresh questions over the security of America's newest alternative supply hub. However, the shift could temporarily reduce America's forward carrier presence in the Pacific region while resources are redirected. This comes as the U.S. Navy's top carrier strike group, USS Abraham Lincoln, faces growing signs of fatigue and operational strain. The USS Abraham Lincoln has reportedly spent more than 200 consecutive days at sea in 2026. The carrier's prolonged deployment has raised concerns over crew fatigue, morale, and mounting operational pressure. The USS Lincoln's air wing still requires constant supplies of fuel, weapons, and maintenance support while deployed at sea. USS George Washington is now moving toward the Middle East to help relieve the Lincoln from its extended operational duties. The USS Abraham Lincoln is finally set to return home after completing a record-length 266-day deployment, bringing an extraordinary mission at sea toward its end. The aircraft carrier spent around 200 days operating inside a combat zone during the extended mission, keeping its crew under sustained operational pressure for months. Acting Navy Secretary Hung Cao said the Lincoln's deployment was extended because the mission demanded it, requiring the carrier to remain in the region far longer than originally planned. Cao said the crew was pushed to its limits throughout the deployment, but insisted that the sailors never broke despite the intense demands placed on them. Hung Cao said, and I quote, "Unfortunately, the media are trying to paint our warriors as victims. Not only is that dishonest, but it takes away the focus on the enemy and the threat it poses against our nation, people, and way of life. Here is the truth: 266 days deployed, 200 days in a combat zone, 10,000 plus sorties. 1.5 million pounds of ordnance dropped, and retention rates on the ABE are amongst the highest of all carriers. It is also true, a small number of mental health cases were treated with no loss of life. Meal plans were adjusted when fresh resupply was unavailable, without a single meal being missed. Calls home were limited when the operational threat was too high, unquote. The U.S. Navy says the Lincoln completed more than 10,000 sorties during its exceptionally long combat mission, highlighting the scale and intensity of its operations. The carrier also dropped around 1.5 million pounds of ordnance during the deployment, underscoring just how heavily involved the Lincoln was in combat operations. The Navy said the carrier's crew kept flight operations and other critical missions running through months of continuous deployment, maintaining the ship's combat readiness until the final stretch. Pentagon spokesperson Kingsley Wilson rejected reports that the USS Abraham Lincoln crew was left without basic support during its prolonged deployment, pushing back against claims about deteriorating conditions. Wilson said a small number of mental health cases were treated during the deployment, while emphasizing that there was no loss of life linked to those cases. Kingsley Wilson said, and I quote, "The fake news media wants you to ignore the facts about the USS Lincoln. A small number of mental health cases were treated with no loss of life. Meal plans were adjusted when fresh resupply was unavailable, without a single meal being missed. Calls home were limited when the operational threat was too high. Our sailors on the USS Lincoln are victors, not victims. Cheap shots by the media to misrepresent their historic mission are disgraceful," unquote. The Navy has also said it has not seen an increase in suicidal ideation among the crew, disputing claims that the extended deployment caused a broader mental health crisis aboard the carrier. Wilson accused media reports of misrepresenting conditions aboard the carrier, arguing that some accounts failed to accurately reflect the reality faced by the crew during the prolonged deployment. She said the Lincoln sailors were victors, not victims, after completing what officials described as a historic and exceptionally demanding deployment. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has also dismissed reports about conditions aboard the ship, pushing back against claims that the crew was inadequately supported during its long mission. On August 14th, Trump also dismissed concerns over conditions for sailors aboard USS Lincoln, adding his own defense of the crew as the carrier prepares to return home.
So, the headline today, does everybody know Caroline is with us? The headline today is exactly that. You see it? It says prescription drug prices record sharply drop in more than 60 years. Okay, got it? Everybody have it? And I told you that was going to happen. The second headline is this. The Trump administration marked 15 straight months with zero border releases as apprehension was 94%. In other words, the border. And that means for 15 straight months we had zero people crossing the border. Are you impressed? Is anybody impressed? You are. Thank you. I'll give you the first question, therefore. Go ahead. Go ahead. Anybody?
So what do you hope to accomplish this weekend?
I have a lot of things that are happening. A lot of good things. The economy is doing unbelievably from the standpoint of Wall Street just getting on the record increase 80 times to the best market in history. And that's good for 401ks. It's good for a lot of things, but it's great for 401ks and jobs. I would say it's great for 401ks and jobs. So we hit number 80 record. So 80 days out of a short 1.5 years. We have a record stock market. 401ks have set a new record. And you take a look at the border, 15 months with zero people coming through our southern border. Pretty amazing. And drug prices again. Prescription drug prices down more than at any time over 60 years. Okay, what else do I have to say?
Service members are concerned about the conditions on board the USS Lincoln.
Well, no, that ship is moving. That ship is moving right now, or very shortly, and it's being replaced with another very similar ship.
Deployment's gone on too long. Are you worried?
No. Not nearly long enough. Thank you, everybody.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.